Welcome to UserAndI, the channel where I explore all things UX and UI design, and today I'm back with another design video, and I'm actually going to walk you through this one and talk about the things that I did, talk about why I did certain things. So let's get into it. I actually took this picture when I went on a little day trip to Dorset. This is Durdle, and it was a pretty cool day. So I guess the concept for the app is a travel location exploration app. You get to see what other people have posted, swipe through their pictures, get some information about where you're going, how long it will take, and people's review on it. So I specifically chose this font as well just because it gives it a bit more character. And here's me experimenting with putting on a background behind the text just to make it stand out a bit more. I wasn't sure if this was going to work initially, and it turns out it didn't work just because the text is going to be in a white box and it stood out enough on the background, so I thought I'd remove it for now. That white box has an auto layout setting and it's got some padding around it as well. Again, I'm using the same font throughout, it's just a different weight. And I was having a bit of a think here about what kind of information I'd want in here. So immediately I wanted a name, which would be like the person who visited, in this case Durdle, and then I wanted like a little review, like a little experience review of what they did then and how they enjoyed it. So I was thinking from a user's perspective, they'd want a bit more information than just pictures. So I thought this might be pretty helpful. I do go in and adjust the line height here between the text just because it wasn't looking right, and I bumped the font size down. Again, just setting some hierarchy. Even though I've changed the font size, I wanted the name of the person to be a bit bolder. And a tiny little divider just to add a bit of separation. So what I was concerned about here is that it's a block of text and it's going to be on a mobile, so I wanted a bit of separation between where what I'd like to call information about the actual experience and where the call to action was going to be, which I wanted at the bottom. And of course that was going to be a different color just to make it stand out, because that's really what that's the action the user is going to make after reading the sentence and absorbing the beautiful imagery. And of course, using Font Awesome plugin. So the reason why I prefer using Font Awesome icons as well is because as a developer it's very easy to use Font Awesome icons as well, just because it's a package. There are a lot of different other places you can use icons as well, but I quite like the way they look. They're quite heavy, they're quite thick, and for the app I was designing, it made sense to use that because of the style. If I was making something a bit cleaner, I'd definitely have opted for something like line icons or a different package altogether. And just a bit of alignment now that I've got the text sorted. And a bit more positioning on the image now that I've got bits covering it. I guess the main bit you want to see is the sea, is the mountain, is the horizon in the background. And adding a bit of drop shadow as well, just to lift that white tile off the background. And at this point is where I wanted to sort of scale out the exploration aspect. So if I was a user, I'd come to this screen, but I guess how would I view other screens? How would I view other experiences? How would I view other reviewers or other people who have gone on trips? And that's when I thought this would be a great opportunity for a carousel. So this is the point where I'm adding the amount of sort of tiles that you've got. If we imagine that this would be in a listing view where you've got many sort of locations in the UK, you'd be able to pretty much just swipe across. That's what I was thinking. And this is where I bring back in that background as well. I wanted the carousel tiles to stand out a bit more under the background, just because depending on the image we chose, I didn't want it to start disappearing. So that's when I brought in the faded background with the feathered edges and with a bit more transparency as well, and then just nudging it down a bit. Then I moved on to adding a bit more extra information. So I wanted to experiment having all the text in the tiles, hence me duplicating the bold text and then just putting in a few extra bits of information about Durdle Door or about where you are and how long it's going to take to get there. But I didn't think that was the best place for it because I'd start to make that area a bit busy. So I take the title out and I move that somewhere else. Experiment with trying it in the center. And then I decide that it's probably not standing out there. And this is when I pretty much decide, okay, I know where I want this information to be. It's just going to be floating just above the area, because I guess immediately you're going to scan the page, you're going to look at the title, and then you're going to go straight to the bottom. So that's where all the information is going to be. So I wanted to make it easier for the user and group all this information so they're in the same area on the screen, so they're not darting their eyes up and down the screen. And this was me just having a look at the screen and thinking, what else do I need to do? What doesn't look right? Just assessing what the design looks like. I don't know if you guys do this when you're designing, but you just take a break, take a step back and think, what doesn't need to be there? What should be there? What doesn't look right? Typically go through a process of adding loads of things to design, and then I start to remove it and see if things still make sense. And that's when I start to realize what's the necessary piece of information or what necessary elements should be on the page. I do experiment with having a call to action at the top under the title, but looking at where it was placed, it's very difficult for it to stand out depending on what the background image was. So I thought it's probably best to leave it at the bottom. And then I was thinking, okay, well, if a user gets here, they definitely want to start adding things to their favorites. What if they see a place but they don't want to book, but they want to be like, okay, I want to come back to that, or I want to see that. A bit like Airbnb where you go and book an accommodation but you're not sure yet and you've got like a set of things that you like. I thought adding a favorites area would be really great. So that's where I start to add in this icon.